Welcome to The Finance Geeks, a podcast about real financial planning. Join us as we get into the nitty-gritty, discussing everything from pensions to portfolios. If you're into numbers, strategies, and running a successful practice, this is your ultimate geeky hangout.
Welcome to Season 2, Episode 17 of the Finance Geeks podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Warren Shute, and I'm joined by...
Paul Cleworth.
That was nice. I like that. Very smooth. And today we're talking about how to grow from a solo planner to a financial planning practice. But before we dive into that, Paul, what have you been up to professionally this week? Did you like that?
I like it how you included the professional there. Thank you, Warren. So, contrary to popular opinion, I do actually do some work and, try to help clients as best I can. I do like watching 80s movies and listening to 80s music, but now let's go. So what I've been doing, I've been looking at new financial planning software. So I've been trialing FinCalc.
Truth?
Well, we looked at Truth before, and it's all right. It's just FinCalc is on the radar at the moment. We quite like it. You're shaking your head, eh?
The best financial planners use Truth.
Is that right? Very good.
Is.
Anyway, I'm trialing it. It's 28-day trial. So Kevin's having a go. I'm having a go. And if we like it, we might use it.
It's too expensive.
It's not too expensive. It's really good value. Thank you.
Your time.
Okay, listen. You also asked me what else I've been doing. I've been looking at what to include in a will for clients of mine. I've been having a look at that. I've been getting more into making sure the will's correct. I've been reading through some wills, and when you see the language in certain wills, and you're thinking, who wrote this? It makes no sense. There's no grammar in it whatsoever. It's all legal chat. There's no full stops or commas. You're just thinking, this is nonsense. Looks like a 12-year-old's written it. I've been putting together documents for my clients on what to include in a will.
We should do a session on that.
Yeah,
you could ask me and I'll answer them. I know about wills.
I already know the answers. I don't need to ask you for your opinion, do I? When I already know. I could tell you what the answers are. Okay. I've been dealing with client queries about tax returns and pensions and tax codes.
Really?
And it's interesting that, I do give an opinion, and then I generally refer them to an accountant or speak to my accountant to get an opinion, or just say I don't know because we don't submit tax returns. But if it's something that I do understand, I'll definitely do my best to try and assist the client, and then follow it up with an email. The case in question, or the question that the client asked me was about, if they earn six figures, they're no longer required to do a tax return, according to a letter from HMRC. And this particular client had tax relief to claim on a pension, or rather, in this case, actually, he had tax to pay because he hadn't paid enough into a pension this year that he did previously. And it is complicated because unless you do it a lot and you see it a lot, when you're doing tax returns, you wouldn't know the answer to this as a financial planner. Boring tax stuff. But also, lastly, I've been buying lots of cards. It's Catherine, my practice manager's birthday. It's my wedding anniversary in a couple of days. It's my wife's birthday next month. And so I actually got Thomas, my administrator, to buy all the cards on Funky Pigeon. I can send him some pictures. So put this together.
This is your wife will listen to this.
She won't listen to this. She won't listen to this.
Alison,
but I've got some flowers going her way, and I'm going to give my wife some money because whatever I choose, it'll be wrong. And I've got a voucher for Catherine. So, a theatre ticket voucher. Again, by the time this goes out, it'll be a birthday, so it'll not be a surprise. I'll not ruin it.
I think Vince, you might edit that out, I think.
Warren, what have you been up to professionally?
Busy. Do you know at the moment?
Don't say playing golf, for the love of God. That's not professional, unless you're taking clients.
Yeah, done a bit of golf.
Even then, it's
enjoying the golf a bit too much, but been busy in the office. Really, really busy. And I always frowned upon people who would put a pause on accepting new clients in, but I think we're going to. You kind of get to a capacity, and it's most important to give the service to existing clients. But we took on 2 new clients this week, which isn't normal. It's we don't take a client on every week. So that will be a lot of work, and some great planning meetings. Just helping clients.
God forbid you'll have to do some work.
I am doing some work at the moment, I must say. But
aren't you contradicting what you said in the last podcast about as you're getting busier and busier, you sort of plan for this and you take on a new member of staff, you hire before you reach capacity. Now you're saying that you're at capacity and you don't want to take on anyone else?
No, we are hiring. We're hiring. I'm trying to hire. We have an advert. If you're a power planner and you're looking for a job, you've got to be good, then give us a shout. We are not desperate, but we are looking avidly for a power planner. We desperately want
somebody fits the bill.
Yeah.
Very good. So you can continue to grow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd like 3 pods. I'd like another. We have Christian, who's a fantastic planner. We then need to get another paraplanner to support him, and I'd like another planner. I'd like a female planner. I think female planners bring a fantastic dimension to the firm. They think more. They've got a lot more empathy than a lot of male planners. So yeah, I'd like to add that to
Very
it.
good.
So yeah, that's what we've been up to. Lots of new clients. I hate to say it, but I think we might pause taking on new clients. And yeah, annual planning meetings with clients, helping them to live their best life. It's been great.
So if you listen to this and you were going to contact Warren, don't bother.
Don't bother.
Instead, contact me, especially if you've got lots of interesting problems to solve and happen to have a lot of assets to review. I'm your man. Yeah, if you want to get the slightly superior financial planner, then
Absolutely,
give me a bell.
No, definitely. Anyway, shall we move on to the main
Yes.
section of the podcast? How to grow from a solo planner to a financial planning practice. And I think many of our listeners will be there, either employed within a firm or perhaps just starting out in their practice and thinking, okay, how do I go from where I am to where I want to be?
They say it's about 30,000, 27 to 30,000 advisors in the country. There's plenty of clients for everybody. And the average age of an advisor it's over 50. I don't know what it is exactly, but it's over 50.
Yeah. But it's always been that, isn't it?
But as the population rises and the need for advice is greater than ever, there's an advice gap, and there's not enough young advisors coming through into the business. And you always say, it's the best profession in the world, and I agree, it's fantastic. You get to help people live the best lives, solve problems, and so forth. Anyone listening to this is thinking about how do I increase my revenue, become more successful, I'll grow my business. I think the starting point is absolutely deciding on what does your outcome look like? What's your outcome? No.
He said it.
No, sorry, God forbid, take that, delete that. No, it's deciding on what your vision is going to be. Do you want to take on more clients? Do you want more staff? Do you want to work in a business that's got 50 people? Or do you want to just work on your own? I mean, so I think let me jump into something more interesting.
You're really struggling not to say know what your outcome is, aren't you?
I'm not going to say it. I'm going to start bizarrely with a quote, because it'll set up the rest of this.
From Stephen Covey.
From Michael Gerber, who says, "Don't just build a business that depends on you, build one that can thrive without you." And Michael Gerber, as you well know, wrote The E-Myth Revisited,
which is one of the most complicated books in the world.
Yes, one of the things that anybody should realize when they're running a business, it doesn't matter whether it's financial planning business or another, is that it has to be able to run without you, or else you've just got a job. You're just employed. You've got a job. You've not got a proper business. A business requires recurring revenue. It's not just something that should be transactional, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree with you. But I think it's not wrong to be a consultant. It's not wrong to have a practice that is reliant on you, and you are a specialist in that area, and you run a consultancy. So I know you're going to ring the bell, but it's what is your outcome? What do you want? Do you want to just be really specialist, do it yourself, and run a small practice, or do you want to grow a business, a financial planning practice, and have support staff? And
Yeah, well, we're assuming that somebody wants to be able to grow. Hence the sort of how do you move from solo to a financial planning practice, and I think there's an optimal. In terms of an optimal amount of clients you can work with realistically, the amount of staff that you should have relative to those number of clients that you work with, and you have to work the numbers backwards. You have to sort of say, well, if I work with 80 client families and I work 40 clients a year, I'm delivering two financial planning meetings per week. Can I do that? And what does that involve? And what's the average case size for those clients? Do they have 100,000 or do they each have £1 million to manage? What's the average? And what am I going to charge for those services? And it is important to do the numbers. We talked about this in our last episode about having a business plan for yourself, working through it to sort of see what does the future look like? What's my vision? Because if you don't have that plan in place and you just keep taking on the next client, I mean, unless the system is and you're employed for a big firm like Quilter or M&G Wealth or someone like that, and your job is just acquisition, new client, and someone else services them, that's a different model. And you mentioned there about being a consultant. If your job is hourly rate, day rate, go in, solve the problem, come out, and that's what you want to do, great.
Yeah.
But a financial planning firm, it's a relationship business, and it requires ongoing support and reviews, and it's it's for the long term.
Yeah.
It's not transactional, is it? It's not something where you sell a product and you never speak to your client again.
No, 100%. Yeah, no, definitely. I think you're right. What you're saying is, I agree with completely.
I want you to disagree with me more, because every time I say something, you say 100%, 100%. You're right. I'm right. You're right. We're right.
If you are listening to this and you are an employed individual, going in a practice, building your career, maybe going through exams, you have aspirations to own your own firm, step one, do your own financial plan. Find out how much money you need to earn to fund the lifestyle that you want. Okay. And then step two, just because you're employed, you can build a business plan now based on the ideal practice for you. So is it one planner? Is it three planners? How many support staff have you got? How many clients? Just going through the same things you're doing that you were saying. And you can run the figures of saying, okay, well, how much revenue do I need if I'm going to then live off of this? And we run very strict percentage figures. We say 30% of the revenue to the planning advisor if they're the owner or occupier, 45% for overheads, 25% retained. Those figures stack up quite well. But if you're an employed individual, they don't work because you'll be on a lower percentage. But
the thing is, you're building something. If you're building a business, the business should have some kind of value and worth, and that value is to do with your brand, the goodwill, the recurring revenue, all the processes and systems. But ultimately, it's the client bank. If your intention is money related, and it should be to an extent, if you've got to run a business to be profitable, or else what's the point, quite frankly? But to build that business value, you need lots of sort of plate spinning, and you need lots of parts to that that plan that you're going to create. And what you find is if you're a solo practitioner, you're just limiting your capacity. The amount that you can realistically do on your own is going to be minimal. That you just won't get to the high levels of turnover and recurring revenue if you don't have support. Yeah. So if you decide, right, I want to work with other people, I'm going to start out, I'm going to do that, and you're in a position to take on another member of staff. The first person I took on when I started Tandem Financial nearly 9 years ago was my power planner, because we sort of emerged from a previous firm. But we quickly realised if he's doing the planning, that's Kevin, and I'm doing the sort of presentation of those plans, giving the advice, we need a practice manager, an office manager, an additional administrator. And I sort of, very quickly recruited a lady who came to work for us called Sharon. And it was great. It was just the three of us. And then sadly, she moved on, and I got a Catherine come on board, who's been with me 6 years. And then what you do is you tactically decide, well, what's next? Do I need another administrator, another power planner? Do I need another advisor? And at each stage of that journey, there are challenges. And you've got to make sure that it's working and that they're all committed, you're paying your staff correctly, everyone knows what they're doing. And for me, it was a natural sort of development and progression, because I already had, at that time, a certain amount of clients that I was looking after and managing. And then when you want to take on new clients, you have to have the systems, the processes, and the extra staff.
I think you're 100%. I agree with you. We're talking about so many variables there, aren't you? We're talking about the staff, the systems and processes, stuff like that. I think the first hire for a lot of financial planners is an administrator. To go from it being a sole financial planner to recruiting a para planner is a big financial jump.
Well, because they're expensive. A power planner can be, I mean, if any quality diploma based or above power planner will be, I don't know, 45 to 80,000. I mean, it's a lot. Probably average 50, 60,000 at least for someone who's really qualified and competent and experienced. And but at the time, this was nearly 10 years ago, it was historical, and Kevin came with me and was doing the planning and the admin. I agree. The first person you'd probably take on as an administrator to help you submit business, chase clients, letters of authority, submit stuff.
When I say the step before recruiting your administrator, would be to document your processes. Because otherwise what you do is you have an individual there who needs to learn, so they need your time. If they're taking your time, you can't be seeing clients doing your thing. So you kind of think, actually, it's quicker to do it myself. So step one has got to be, okay, how do I deliver my advice? And you start documenting your process. So at Lexington, everything we do is documented. We call it the end-to-end process. So literally from how do we contact the client, what we send out to the client, to how we do rebalances and stuff like that.
Where's it written down? Is it in some big manual lever arch file, or is it all online?
Oh, it's all online. It's in folders, and the overarching folder is called the end-to-end. It's all broken down through client birthdays, how we operate and do those.
And who writes all of those processes? Do you write them, or does Nikki write them, or
Our practice manager wrote them. So our practice manager
Right.
Carolyn wrote them. She went through. It took ages, but that's not true. I wrote the original one, then she revised it.
Yeah,
The original one was in place for years and was just tweaked. And then, of course, post COVID, we had a dramatic change on how we delivered business. We went to DocuSign, we went to Teams. Everything changed massively, so it was a big overhaul. So she overhauled it about a year ago, 18 months ago. Don't look at it and think, "Oh, that's so big, I can't do it." Just start with the basics. So, how do you deliver a discovery meeting? How do you deliver an investment presentation? How do you deliver your planning meeting? How do you submit business? Start with the basic stuff. And then at least you've got something to work with. And then once you've got those documented, remember they're moving feet, then go out and get your first hire. And be very clear on what you're going to delegate to this individual. So, okay, that individual is going to contact my clients and they're going to get that information from this list. This is how they're going to do it. They're going to call it. This is what they're going to say to that client. They're going to book them in. This is when they're going to book them in. This is the times of the day that I accept clients in. If there's structure and organization there, it's so much easier for them to pick it up and run with it.
Do you know, just thinking about it, impartially as I can, it's so different to lots of other businesses. If you're selling widgets, selling a particular product online or door to door or face to face or whatever, and it's one product and it's one process, it's there's different challenges, but it's a lot easier, a lot simpler. The challenge with financial planning is all your clients are different. They've got a huge amount of different policies you've got to understand and review. And the way that you deliver it, all the different providers that you could use, whether it's life insurance companies, wrap platforms, whatever, things that you outsource, it's multifaceted to the point where you almost have to be quite specific on what you do and what you can deliver and how best you can do that. Otherwise, it's just you end up trying to be a jack of all trades and just winging it. Things will come a cropper. I remember doing mortgages and there's hundreds of mortgage providers, and we probably use 30, 40 different providers constantly, and they're all got different processes and different application forms, and you end up thinking, right, I'm doing well here. I've got a pipeline of 40 different mortgages all go in with different protection policies, and if there's nobody chasing it up and there's no system behind the scenes, it just quickly goes pear-shaped, doesn't it?
Yeah. And you've hit on a very good point there about documenting and detailing, and this is part of consumer duty, who you are and who you deal with and what you deliver. What does your client look like and what do you deliver to them? What's your process?
Well, that's the big thing now, isn't it? To be able to document all of that.
Yeah, we sort of summarize that in our client value statement. We call it about us and how we work together. And it basically explains about the firm, what we do and what we don't do and how we work together, our fees and stuff like that. So clients have got something tangible. And new recruits, when we take work experience people on, they come in and that's part of the journey. What they do, they read through it. So this bit started, I guess, about, why scale and stuff like that. And we've kind of moved on a bit. But, I think that's the journey for me. That's the sort of, before you hire, let's have some processes in place. Arguably, before we have the processes in place, let's have a business plan and a personal plan.
The potential of being a financial planner is fantastic. The potential outcome for yourself, the way you make other people feel, that you can make good money running this doing this job. It can be done remotely. In a lot of cases. And you mentioned there about outsourcing. You can run a successful practice by doing Zoom meetings and team meetings and seeing clients online. But I think that if you're going to build a practice, you have to absolutely decide on not only who you ideally work with and what your your processes and systems are, but also where you want to get to and what the point is ultimately. I mean, are you doing it just to make a load of money? Unless you devise your proposition beforehand and capitalize your business, you're just going to be working without a plan and going nowhere, aren't you?
Dare I say your why is your outcome? Why the hell are you doing this? What is your outcome? What are you trying to achieve?
What's your outcome? What's your why? Why do you love doing what you do?
That's a really, really good question. Are you
a people's person? Is that what it is?
Do you know what? It's interesting when you say people's person. I obviously am very good with people's stuff, but I think when I'm with people all the time, I actually love nothing more than playing around a golf on my own. 4 hours of going around on my own, my golf course is bliss for me. And the members always say, play with me. I'm like, I'm with people all day, every day. I talk all the time. It's really nice when you spend 4 hours. I enjoy my company. My wife came the other day and I was like, you sure you want to come with me? My why I do it is I love seeing growth. My biggest value in life is growth. And I get a lot of personal satisfaction of seeing people grow. When I say grow, I don't mean necessarily become wealthier, but live a more abundant life. And I was very, very, very lucky to meet Paul Etheridge very early in my career, who showed me how to do proper financial planning. So I've had a self-fulfilling prophecy that I love growth, I love improving, learning more. I'm in the best profession for that, and I see that in other people, my clients. So that I get a lot of that, and I get a lot of significance out of what I do, because clients come to me and we all do. Clients come to us and they ask us questions, and I feel very privileged that they entrust their own retirement and their family's wealth with me, and I take that very, very seriously. And that's why I probably would never sell.
It's a massive responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. I thrive on it. It's like, it's really, really important to me.
I think it's because I'm so stubborn, and I just don't like being told what to do. I mean, I get told what to do by my wife and by my kids, but at work, I'd like to think I'm the boss, and I can sort of, run the business the way I want it to be done. And there's moving parts constantly, and I'm one where I don't like just resting on my laurels and saying it'll be okay. The business, the markets change, tax rules change, things change, and I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve all the time and trying to improve. I mean, we're spending money on our website at the moment to try and develop that, putting new sections in, and do a bit more videos, a few more videos for clients. There's definitely an order though, and the order of building your business from solo to a proper practice. We talked earlier about hires and about systems and processes, but I think it actually starts with the brand. You've got to decide: do I just want to be employed? And that's fine. Do I want to work with just one other person, an administrator, or do I want to be a partnership? Or do I have a bigger vision that I want to build this business to something that leaves a legacy and that actually, helps, many, many families indeed, and different generations of families, and just keeps going. And it's something that you can just keep on tweaking and improving over the years. You asked me my why, and I was trying to think of what it is there, and I think that it's genuinely because I enjoy helping people. It's also because things change and it's interesting to me. Finance and markets and people are interesting, and everyone's got a story to tell, and I want to understand that. It's a problem to solve. I love that as well. It dawned on me the other day when you say, "Oh, we manage £150 million plus of assets." That level of responsibility. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? And I think about like that as well. Would the clients be better or worse off without me? What would a rogue wealth manager or bank do with this money, and what position would that client be in? I'm saving people from disaster.
It's no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I do know very few people would care as much about my clients as I do. I feel very humbled and grateful that they entrust things with me.
What about people that you've worked with previously, lessons that you've learned or things that you do differently? You must have made mistakes in growing or had particularly troubling times, or perhaps people you've worked with or something like that. Have you got any example you want to share?
I've learned loads from people that I've worked with. The most troubling time that I had was before I set up Lexington. I was in a partnership with a lady, and we were running the business, and I was very enthusiastic. I wanted to grow the business and stuff like that, and she was less enthusiastic in growing the business. She was more sitting back and just enjoying the good times of life and stuff. And she would sort of basically change the contract. Although we were partners, she was a major shareholder. It was a partnership. And she would change the terms of our agreement and stuff. And at one point, she held off income. This was right off early in our career. Before I would sort of speak to her. And basically, what she wanted to do is she wanted my power planner, who I was paying for, to work for her too. So that was just a sort of a line in the sand, say, hey, look, I really have to take control of this. I was 22, 23 years old, something like that. I was young. I really need to take control. This isn't a good learning experience. I need to do something about this. So that's when I broke away and I set up Lexington, and it went from there. But that was the sort of the most troubling time I've had, was when I worked with somebody else and didn't have things documented as well as I would do today. Because I was just young and naive. But apart from that, I've been very, very lucky. I had to make a decision
How
relatively.
old's Lexington now?
Well, 95 was when I started. About 1999. So what's that?
Oh, right.
Yeah, about 90.
25, 26 years.
Yeah. The first sort of 5 years, I was tied a company called Pearl Assurance for about a year. Then I joined a firm called Intralliance for about 2 years. Then I had this period of 18 months, 2 years with this lady in another firm. And then I set up Lexington. And I was very lucky. I still have clients from the I still have some clients from Pearl from very, very early days.
Really?
Yeah. Must be doing something right. And it's nice to see them grow.
I was at Canada Life originally. That's where I started in 2000, and I was only there for 3-4 months. Did the CFA exams, and then started to do the odd mortgage. But I went to work for a company called Anderson Consulting, and again, it's hard to think back this long, but it was in around 2000 or early 2001, and they showed me how not to do everything. This was, I think, the guy who ran it ended up in prison or something. They were churning pensions,
Are you sure?
receiving huge commissions, moving money from one pot to the next.
Sure, it's called Anderson
Well,
Consultants.
they'd taken the Anderson name and they'd called it something. I'm sure it was like Under Consultants or Consulting, and it was
Oh, okay.
something. It wasn't the
Wow.
big consultancy
Okay,
firm.
it wasn't the consultancy firm.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't there. Anyway, it's interesting because you when you're young, you just don't know. You haven't got the experience, to know what's the right thing to do. And you listen to other people. If you're a young budding advisor, one of the things you should do is go speak to other advisors that are already running successful practices. Yeah. Whether it's other solo practitioners that have staff or whether it's bigger firms, and ask them things that you can do, and then ultimately make your own decisions. Because here we are giving suggestions and advice. You've still got to make these decisions yourself as an individual advisor as to how you want to grow, what you want to do, what you believe in, what your brand looks like, and your service proposition, and how you want to treat your clients. And I think that one of the big changes for me was in probably 2008 when I stopped doing mortgages, and we still do protection, but stopped doing mortgages, and we stopped doing transactional work, and then moved to what I considered to be an IFA, and then probably 3 or 4 years after that to a financial planner. So you're thinking, I'll go from selling mortgages and doing, helping people buy houses and buy to let remortgages to, right, now it's fee based. I'll manage client assets. I'll do ISAs and pensions and investments. And you end up doing so much of that you think, well, I should probably manage this money and look after these clients. And then you get into financial planning. And it was a transition over time. And I'm glad that I did it, because you can only properly service your clients if you're seeing them and talking to them and contacting them regularly.
Yeah.
And give them proper financial planning support if there's a process for that. And it becomes more enjoyable.
I think for the listener, I think the takeaway from that is really, what are you going to deliver? We also did mortgages in the early days. And for us, I found it difficult to both stay abreast of the investment knowledge, the tax knowledge in the estate planning and stuff, and the whole financial planning, and be an expert in mortgages. And if I had to let something go, that was going to be the one that I decided to let go. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm not a snobby and think you shouldn't do mortgages, but I don't think you can do everything. So that was something easiest that I could let go. So it's really the takeaway from that, I think, is decide what you're going to deliver to your firms and your clients and be really good at it.
And there's an assumption almost that, this is my, again, opinion, that if you specialize in 1, 2, or 3 things, whether that's just core financial planning or pensions or inheritance tax planning, whatever you decide you want to deliver, as you say, that's somehow not worth its value. It's somehow worth less than being able to deliver on everything. I don't submit private medical insurance or mortgages. I don't do will writing. Does that mean that you're an inferior advisor? You can do the client a better service by outsourcing to a specialist and almost helping to control that introduction and helping them go through it, rather than trying to do it all yourself. I think that what you're doing as the advisor is helping the client make these smart decisions, and you're helping them with their mindset, their process, and keeping them in their seat throughout that period of time.
I just want to go back to one thing you said about, if you're a young advisor and you're going on the journey, speak to as many other advisors as you can to, gain your experience stuff. The other thing I'd caveat that with is, to whom are you listening? be really careful to who you're listening. There's a lot of people out there who talk a really good game, okay? And you really want to make sure that they're walking their talk, because someone can talk a good game and give you advice, but if they haven't done it themselves, are they really the right person to give you the advice? Grab their company accounts, look at their accounts, talk to other people about them, look at their firm, see if they're delivering it, to make sure that they are a decent firm. And you think, actually, you know what? I would like a firm like yours. That's the kind of thing I want to go and work with. I go back to all the time. I was lucky I met Paul Etheridge, and he was pretty much the only one that I sort of, modeled. In modeling or looking at someone, what they do and grabbing those is the fastest way you're going to progress. Just thinking you're going to start on your own and do it all on your own back is going to take you forever.
But that's the thing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of these things have been done previously. When you do research, by definition, you'll be thorough. You'll speak to lots of different firms. You'll look at their accounts, as you say. You'll see how they're regarded, what their reviews are online. Ask them about their processes. But the thing is, you've got to listen to that little voice inside you that says, "Is this for me? Do I believe in it? Does this firm I'm speaking to have integrity? Do they deliver, proper financial planning for the client? If I want to do that, what does that look like?" It depends how independent you want to be. So some people are good at selling and following a process. Others will be the ones that come up with the idea in the first place. And, that's one of the things that I love about this job. You can devise a new idea, devise a new document, a new process, and you can see it through. And those that have client people that have high agency, who have the ability, the ideas, and see it through. You want to work with more of those people. It's working with people that are slightly better than you, certainly at the job that they're doing. If you're going to hire an administrator, get a brilliant administrator who loves doing it, who's happy doing it. And if you're on the same journey, the same path, and you've got the same vision, which they have to believe in too, you're going to do great things.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. Okay, what else can we cover? What else is there to talk about?
So the branding one I wanted to talk about. You've got a nice brand, Warren, Lexington. Why is it called Lexington anyway? You obviously came up with the name.
I did. I came up with the name. So at the time, before I started Lexington, I had a show on CNBC. No, sorry, on Bloomberg. I had a show on Bloomberg. We used to do like market commentary and stuff like that. And Nikki, my wife, had never been down to London to the studios. So I'd get the train into Paddington. They'd send a driver to pick me up. So the driver came, and the driver was late. And by the time the driver got to the studio, I'd missed my slot on the show because it was a live slot. And they were very apologetic because it was their fault. And they booked us a table at this restaurant, and said, "Hey, look, take all these goodies, take the driver, go into Soho, enjoy yourself. Really, really sorry. We'll see you next week or next month." So Nikki and I went off into this restaurant. We sat in this restaurant, and I was complaining about the lady I was speaking about earlier. You say, we've got things have got to change. I've got to set my own firm up. This is no good. And we were just sort of chewing the fat, and we were running through ideas. And I said, well, why don't we call it Shute for Success? Be a great name. Play on my name, Success. And we both realized we'd had too much wine at that stage. And then we thought about Laxton, Shute and Honey, because that's the maiden name of my father and Nikki's father's mother. And we thought, okay, it sounds like a law firm. We thought, sounds a bit old fashioned. We want to be dynamic and new. And
sounds like a medication.
The restaurant we were in was called Lexington's. It's no longer there. It's in Soho. It's called Lexington's. We thought, it's all right. And then I realized afterwards, I've got two stories on this. I'll be very quick. Reason afterwards, Lexington is a road that runs parallel to Wall Street in New York. Lexington Avenue, and Lexington Avenue is where the troops left for the War of Independence in America on the 18th of April, which is my birthday. So really, really spooky.
Stars were aligned.
Stars were aligned. So yeah, and you say branding, which I really appreciate. It's very kind of you to say that, but I don't see it as that. I genuinely see I believe, like the master at branding and in your marketing and stuff. It's so pristine and stuff. I don't see it, we're just a financial planning firm, and we're called Lexington, so that. But when it comes to branding, I would
the brand isn't just your website and your logo and the images that you use. It's not just that; it's part of it. But your branding, to give you some credit, is everything that you do, the people that you work with, the way that you talk to your clients, the way that you email them, the way that you greet them. All the fact that you're organized with processes and systems, that's it's all part of it. And I take it hugely seriously that how would I like to feel, if I was working with another advisor, if I call them up, will they answer the phone, or will it take me a week to get through to them? And if I email them, what should I expect? What would I expect? How would I like to be treated? What should the email look like? I'm quite pernickety when it comes to things like this. If someone sends me an email and they have no email signature, I just virtually delete it. If it's a firm that wants something from me, I'm just like, you're telling me how great you are. No, they want to sell you something, some product, and they don't have any credentials or anything else. It's just from John. I also personally like the emails at the top that say "Dear Paul" or "Hi Paul," I think that the language in emails, the way it's set out, it's just something I like. I think, and I wanted to make sure that everything from our letterhead to our, the pens that we have in the office, the coffee that we serve, everything is tip top. Because if I think that people will expect that if they come in and they've got a lot of money to invest, and they want to trust you, who are you comparing yourself to? Is it to a typical old school life insurance company or direct salesman, or are you going to be like one of the very posh, UK or American banks where you do get a service that you like them or load them?
Yeah.
You go to a fancy office and get somebody treat you nicely and give you a nice coffee and tea. That's part of it. It's part of your offering and part of your brand.
I think that's very important. So, for example, you won't see any life assurance or provider paperwork in our office. So you sit in our office, you won't see any magazines from Investment Week or anything like that, Financial Advisor or something. You won't see any.
Bloomberg's not on the TV with all the ticker tapes going across with what's going on in markets.
No. What I do is I have all my shows recorded from when I was younger, and I just have that on a constant loop. I'm joking.
They'd walk out the office after that.
And I think that's important. I think sometimes you go in the desks are clear. It's very tidy. You come probably not. Yeah, it's very very tidy. You come into my office, and it's very open, very clear, very tidy. And there's nothing really to imply that you're in a financial advisor's office. So I think that's really important. I think when your desk is cluttered, clients can look at it, and you kind of got to appeal to the highest standard, because you don't know whether your client or potential client coming in is someone who likes a messy desk, because some people work very well with a messy desk, or someone who is very very pristine and organized.
But better to be the latter, I think, to be super organized.
Yeah, I agree. No, definitely.
If you're growing a business, and there is so much to this, it's almost like getting tongue tied, because you think back over the last 20 odd years and how each of us have built the business, and it surely comes down to sort of, it's like eating an elephant, small chunks. We just got to solve one problem at a time, and I think that one of the things one of the things that you mentioned, which is super important, is making sure that there's enough capital in your business to do the things that you want to do. Because if you outsource, if you want to buy something that's branded, if you want to deliver a service, everything costs money, and it's you have to get obviously the right processes, systems, people in place, all of that. But you also have to be super compliant as well, and I had a meeting not so long ago with a sole advisor, or an advisor who was he employed? I think he was trying to he's working for an RI, but he was effectively self-employed, and he wanted to become directly regulated and run his own business. And he was just saying, how do you do it? And there are stumbling blocks that you find that are very difficult to overcome, as in trying to become now directly authorized as a sole practitioner. And even if you've got all the qualifications, you could submit to the FCA to try and get directly authorized, and the percentage chance is less than 10% now, apparently. It's really terrible.
Really?
So my advice to him was, I said, yeah, it's really low. It's nowhere near as easy as it perhaps was, and it was never easy. There's a lot of documents to produce. But I said, well, okay, you have to think about moving to become an RI, a registered individual, with another firm that's already registered. You could become part of their brand, part of their business, or rather run yours, create your own company, but just using them for regulation and compliance. Being, very strict and stubborn, I'm very particular about my own brand. I don't want another organization to be telling me how I need to do things, how I should do them. You've got to decide, as I say, whether you want to take orders and instructions and work within someone else's umbrella, or whether you want to do it yourself.
I don't think working under somebody else's umbrella is that bad a deal, that bad a thing. You can focus on your unique excellence, what you want to do. It depends on what's important to you.
You've also got to understand what your main talents are, and you've got to look inside yourself and sort of decide what you're really good at and what you need help with. And once you've been super honest about that, you can then make a plan to develop and improve in those areas. I remember at Advisor 3.0, you and I spoke there a couple of years ago, and someone asked me about, he was trying to put it on me on this, what's the one thing you need to do to run a successful business? And I said, learn how to sell.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, it's partly closing, but it's knowing how to talk to people, how to deliver options, how to greet them, how to sort of, it's no good giving lots of great offerings to a client and an amazing report if you can't complete the application forms and process that business. It's just a waste of time.
Do you remember I disagreed?
What did you say?
I think I said get your processes in order. I think
because well, both.
If you can't fault the assumptions, it's reasonable to accept the conclusions. You just show the client the journey, and then they buy. We don't sell anything; the clients buy it. But should we wrap up? Should we wrap up that session before we move on to the Q&A? Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
I would like to suggest that if any budding advisors want to DM myself, I'm happy to have a chat with you about trying to grow your business and looking at where you're at. There are lots of courses out there, whether it's one of Brett Davison's courses about how to grow your business, one of Warren's courses that he puts on. What's the next gen planners? They're a big organization who can help you grow your business.
Their courses.
No, I haven't.
How can you endorse something you've not done? I can do.
Well, I hear that they're quite
good. They might be really nice guys. They might run good courses. I don't know. I've not done them, but.
All right. Well, I can say then it give me a shout. Ping me an email. I'll get in touch with me, and I'll give you an honest opinion about how to move to the next stage.
And I would endorse that because you're running a successful practice. So I'd say much better than doing a course by someone. It's like look at the teacher, see what they've done. You're going to get so much. Your results are going to be so much faster when you get closer to the source. So it's someone who's really doing it, rather than just someone who says they're going to do it.
Absolutely. So what quotes have you got for us this time on success, building a business,
So let's just sort of, because that was a long session and we spoke about a lot of things. We kind of summarized it a little bit for listeners to take away because I'm very mindful that we went off in lots of tangents. I guess without using the word outcome, it's like understand what you want to achieve. Okay, what does it look like for you in the future? Once you know that, you can then build a plan, a business plan, and a personal financial plan to help you achieve that. Would that be fair? Would you agree with what I just said?
Completely. Yeah. You have to do that. Yeah. You've got no map, no direction, no roadmap of where you want to get to. It's a waste of time then.
Alongside your business plan, I think it's really important you have a cash flow in arguably 3, maybe 5 years. Okay, of cash flow. So this is what my expected revenues are going to be. This is what my expected overheads are going to be, and everything else. And then make sure that your business is capitalized. Make sure you've got some cash in it, so it enables you to do the website, to do the marketing, to get the nice coffee, to make sure your office is nice, and you invest in yourself. It's going to take you a bit of time to get a return on your capital, but it'll be the best return on capital you ever had. The best return you'll ever get is going to be in your own business. You then know at what trigger points you're going to make your first hire. So whether that's going to be an administrator or outsourced power planning or whatever you might be, you decide what are my trigger points, and then you get to a certain capacity. For example, we've got capacity at power planning. We want to bring it in-house. Where are your trigger points to that? And I think when you get to that stage, you're probably 80-90% of the way there. And then it's delivering on your processes, making sure your process is documented, and then delivering on your processes. It's great. It's the best profession in the world, like I've always said. And I think you can achieve it within a firm. I think Christian's very, very happy within the firm, and he'll do very, very happy. Or you might say, actually, I want to develop and branch out on my own. But it can be lonely on your own. It can be lonely on your own. So don't underestimate don't always think it's the holy grail about being on your own and running your own firm. Sometimes working with other people is worthwhile.
Absolutely.
So Q&A.
So I'm going to give you some quotes here on building a business and on leadership and teams. Right. So first one, I've got a quote from a guy called John Warrilow. Yeah, he was a Canadian entrepreneur, an author, and a speaker. And he said, if your business can't run without you, you have a job, not a business.
Yeah,
An American salesman turned speaker called Zig Ziglar, who I'm particularly fond of. What a great name that is.
Let me jump in. If you're not familiar with Zig Ziglar and you're starting out the business, you've got to get some Zig Ziglar stuff. Go on YouTube and watch it. He's great. He's the best.
Yes. So he said many things. I'm going to give you two of his, right? Just two. One, he says, you don't build a business, you build people, and people build the business. So I think he's endorsing the idea of extra staff and growing your team.
How true is that?
Completely.
How true is that?
Yeah.
It's completely true.
You've got to realize that you can't do it all yourself, and that if you invest in your people and train them up and pay them well and look after them, they will do a lot of it for you.
Some time ago, I did a chart and I looked at my revenue every year and I looked at my hires, and no word of a lie, every time I had a hire, my revenue went up the following sort of year or so. It's gone up every single year anyway, but there was a particular increase because you're just getting stuff off your desk to other people, freeing your time up to do your unique excellence.
Another great quote from the Zig is, you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want.
Yeah.
Isn't that exactly what you do with financial planning?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Always have clients' interest first and foremost at your mind. Don't worry about anything else. Just make sure the client's looked after, and then you'll be rewarded over time.
Do you have any quotes for us, Warren, on this?
Well, sticking on the Zig theme, how about we do people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I like that.
Do you care?
I care. I care infinitely about you, Paul. You are my care bear.
What about clients? You care about them?
I love my clients. I'm very, very, very lucky. In fact, all my clients are connected to me on Facebook socially. They have my mobile phone number.
Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the reason my office is next to my house is because I never, ever take for granted how much trust they put in me. They give me their life net worth to manage and look after, and arguably look after their children. And that's something I take, and that's my why.
So that halo around your head in that picture I put on LinkedIn was accurate. It was true. It wasn't actually just the ring.
Yeah, it wasn't just the ring. Yeah, it was actually a halo. Yeah. Sometimes it's not so clear, but today you can't see it so well. But I'll show it up.
In terms of growing your business, tell us that other Zig Ziglar quote.
Oh, I don't know which one's this one. Oh,
about attitude. God.
Oh, okay. I
love that one.
I love that one as well.
Can you say it? It's a tongue twister.
It's your. I'm going to try and. I can't read it, but it's something along the lines of, it's your attitude that determines your altitude. Is that right?
Your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude.
Yeah, I like that.
I wonder if he actually said that. I mean, it sounds good. It's obviously not really. Maybe he just said it off the cuff.
He used to sign off pretty much every speech he did. We said something along the lines of, "And I'll see you, and I mean you, at the top."
That's quality. That's quality.
Brilliant. We should do a whole session podcast on Zig Ziglar.
Yeah. I referenced him in that presentation we did in South Africa. He was one of the quotes that I did there. Yeah, I showed a picture of him. He looked very cool, very trendy. He's passed away now, unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah. Great. Is anything else, Paul? Is that a wrap?
No, that's a wrap. Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's a massive subject, which we demolished there. So we gave a good thrashing. I mean...
Okay, so that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining us on the Finance Skeets, and we will be with you again in 2 weeks. Please tune in for our next session.
Okay, see you now. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Finance Geeks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. Drop your comments and questions on YouTube, and be sure to follow us on social media. Join us next time for more insights to boost your financial planning game.